Hey guys, new video here, updating my Atlas strategy and some new stuff. So I've changed my Atlas around a little bit, and I feel like I'm gonna get asked about it on stream a bunch, so I'm just gonna make a video. So what I've done is I've changed my T16, right? I was running things like Estuary and Toxic Sewer, but I've changed it to Elder Cells, so T16 cells. And I know it's like a big meme running like the dungeon layouts, dungeon cells, previously things like torture chamber, but I think cells is actually pretty darn good for a number of reasons. And in a future video, maybe tomorrow or something, I'll actually go over. I'll make a video about like what T16 is best, right? Like what should I use, my Elder Zorban or my Shaper Zorban, and I'll list out the pros and cons. But for this video, I just wanted to give a quick update on what I'm doing. And so why did I choose the Elder Cells? So I swapped it because I felt like there was a few things that make mapping really fun, right? And the main thing is like the monster count. So what I did is I ran a bunch of white cells, right? And I could consistently hit like maybe like 700 monsters or something like that. And so if you compare that to like other maps, like for example, some people like Glacier, but if you run a Glacier with no alchemy and it's just like a white map, you put it in there, there's not that many monsters, right? And then same with things like everyone knows Strand. Strand used to be like the best map, but now Strand is complete garbage, and the reason is because both the monster count is low and the monsters are spread out. So the issue with monsters being spread out is that, like, you know, if your build is like really slow, you might even lose your charges, but your build's like okay, you might lose your rampage, you might lose some HH stacks and stuff like that. So spread out monsters and low monster count is probably the worst thing for a map, right? And then the next thing is like, does that map drop anything juicy? For example, a divination card. You know, are there maybe like triple bosses, things that will factor into the loot gaining, right? And so these two things I thought about it. I was like, so I tested out once, and I tested out the white cells, like no rolls, no sexton. I was very happy with the results. And then so now they have like the decent mob density out of the way, and the layout's like not really like that bad, right? And so that out of the way, there is also the divination cards to consider. So the wretch drops in here, and I know that the wretch drops in a lot of other places, you know, the blocks, the tower, you know, some other places like that. But once again, I wanted to combine that with the big mob density, and to really like kind of multiply everything on top of each other. So that's why I chose the cells. And obviously layout is kind of a hot topic, right? Because like people are like, do I want to backtrack? Do I not want to backtrack? You know, some maps have like a ton of backtracking. Some maps have very minimal. Some maps have absolutely no backtracking. And I felt that the cells was interconnected enough in the rooms. Like, yeah, you have to hit some doors, but if you're a running build like Queen of the Forest, it wasn't really that bad. So it's more interconnected than a map like Dungeon. But I'll go over like the pros and cons of stuff in a future video. So I'm choosing cells. I'm gonna do I want to see like how many wretches I can turn in, you know, reasonable amount of time. Maybe get like 100 stacks of wretches and turn those in for another video. So I think it'll just be fun. Now, once again, fun kind of trumps everything else in PoE, because let me put it to you this way: if let's say you run a map that you really enjoy, like let's say you run like beach. I don't know where a beach is anymore, but let's say you run like canyon, right? You love canyon, and you love it so much that you're able to run it all day long for like, you know, 4 hours, 12 hours a day or something, right? So even though maybe the monster density isn't as good as some of the more meta maps like UGS up here and stuff like that, or maybe it's in a bad sexton position, things like that, you know, bad colored sextons to use on it, well, you're still going to be making more money and farming way more than a map that you don't enjoy, right? So it don't always follow the meta, because if you just like do something that streamer tells you to do, or that you see everyone else doing, but you hate that map, you're not going to be playing PoE all that long, right? If you don't play PoE all that long, you're not really farming that much. So I would say definitely just choose a map that you enjoy. Okay, and so another thing I did on my Atlas is I also took off my tier 15s, and so what I found is that like in my map tab here, where is it? In my map tab, see, I have like a lot of I have quite a bit of maps in here from just doing the T16s, doing the Chayubis and things like that. So what did I find out of my T15s and also some T14s, T16s? Well, Tower sells really well. I mean, it sells even better than I'd say Shape Belfry right now, so which is my other T15. So I thought if I'm really only selling my towers and the other maps are taking a lot longer to sell, or on my PoE.trade, my ratios, I have to drop the price significantly every day. For those extra maps to sell, why don't I like just lose some Atlas bonus to only drop Tower, right? So if you look here, I used to have Spider Forest into a T15. I used to have Belfry into T15. I have unshaped those back to the T10, right? And so I still keep my 4 Sextant max, and I've also taken out Summit. I've also taken out Primordial Blocks. I've also taken out the Lava Lake, and I've also taken out Desert Spring, right? So, and it's okay because as you see, there's some masters on these, but you can still do the masters even if it's uncompleted. So if you really want to do your end game challenge for doing the Atlas objectives or something, these masters don't really spawn in the boss rooms, right? So you can do the map, do all the master stuff you can, then leave without killing the boss, and you will not unlock, highlight the map. And of course, you will not complete that Atlas bonus because that requires killing the boss. So that's what I've done. Now the Tower is my only T15. What will happen is because I don't have any T16 shaped either. When a map, if I'm doing a T16 map drops, and it's if it's the T16 will be my cells, and then any T15 that drops, it will search, and it can only find cells as my T15. So it'll it'll only find Tower as my T15. So it'll have to drop a Tower, right? And then I'm going to sell all the towers. Or if you want to, you can like corrupt your towers into like Whale Temples, maybe. You can kind of do whatever you want with that. But I just found this is much easier to sell. And so what did I lose? I lost 4. Yeah, I lost 4 bonus here, right? So not really that bad. I'm going to try it out, see how the Chow's making is there, and hopefully that goes pretty well. Okay, another thing about kind of just adding more quantity on top of everything. So, I have the good monster density, right? I have the good div card that I would enjoy finding and turning in, right? I have a decent sextant. I mean, it's yellows, right? Which kind of sucks, but I'll go over that in a future video. It has 4 sextants in range, which is good, which is my max. And then another thing I want to think of is how can I juice up my quantity a little bit? So another way that you can easily get quantity nowadays, because everybody knows that hey, if you want to sustain T16s, you got to use some Zaba mods on there. You got to use some Alchemy. You got to use some Chisels. You gotta put in maybe some fragments, right? Like 1, 2, 3. So each fragment here is 5% quantity. So when you put this in with any regular map, there's some specialty unique or special zones that these won't apply to, but for the most part, sacrifice with any regular vanilla Atlas of Worlds map that you put in will give 5% quantity per fragment. Okay, and so what that means is it's just 15% free quantity if you put 3 in. Okay, but if you're gonna buy these in bulk, you're paying 1C each, and so basically you're spending 3C for 15% quantity, right? Which comparatively to previous leagues where we had Zaba mods that gave you 20%. It gave you 12% extra because the Zaba already gives you 8. You're paying 2 or 3C for 12%, and so this is 3C for 15%, pretty good. But how can you add a little bit extra for the same cost, right? Because if you're willing to spend 1C for 5% quantity, would you be willing to spend 1C for 30% quantity? And that answer is obviously yes. So I have some Tempest here. Let me show you. I was able to buy these. These are all Tempest right here. These are all Tempest right here. There's I think 5 different kinds. One of them is Whale Winds, which does not add quantity. It actually corrupts the things in the zone. It also corrupts you, and then when you kill, things are corrupted. Drops. Don't worry about Whale Winds. Okay, it's a little bit more expensive. You're looking for things like fire from above, like lightning from above, ice from above. I don't really know these are the correct words, but undead storm or something. Let me just show you. Fire from sky, crushing squall, lightning falls, undead storm, and I think that's it, right? So there's 4 or 5 different kinds, and so each of these, it doesn't matter what kind it is, because you're res cap and stuff, so it's just you won't really notice the effects in the map in terms of hurting you, right? Unless your build's really bad or something. Okay, so what they do is they each add 30% quantity to the map, right? Which is insane for what it is, and they are an easy proc. So basically, you know how if you have something like Monster's Treasure in your prophecies, you know, you might be waiting three or four maps for that proxy if you have bad RNG. But the Squalls, as long as there's not like a shit ton of other prophecies you have, so like eventually I'll like clear all these and I'll only have like maybe the Squall and something else. If it's like your only thing, then it's a very high likelihood that that's going to proc in any map, because it's like, I think it has like a very, there's like probably a coefficient on each of the prophecies, right? And so it has a very high like coefficient of proccing once you activate a map, any map really. So when it activates, you get a free 30%, and it's free, right? Because it's free in the sense that if it doesn't activate, you didn't waste a ton of currency. With Monster's Treasure and Strongbox Sextants and like let's say like Carto, Ambush, and maybe like Harbinger, like Breach Scarabs, what's going to happen is like you're going to spend like what, like 20C, 15 to 25C on each of those Scarabs, and if it doesn't proc, then you're like, oh shit, well like yeah, I get a tiny bit, but it doesn't make up for 75C, right? Whereas this, if it doesn't proc, you're running a map with your fragments anyways, so it's just completely the same as if you didn't use the thing, and you'll still get it for the future unwasted. Okay, so that's why I think that these storms are so good. And another reason is like, to buy these things, if you buy them individually on PoE Trade, remember there's multiple different kinds, you could search for all of them. You can buy them for 1C each if you want to buy 1 or 2 at a time, right? 1C for 30 quantity. And if you want to buy them in bulk, so I have like hundreds of these, right? Hold on, let me just show you. I have this tab full of them, I have this tab full of them, and I have like some more here, right? And I have some more on the way. So the reason I want to talk about this a little bit more is because people hate trading, right? People do not like having to trade for individual items. Like imagine having to go to PoE Trade and buy a map before you had to run it, right? That'd be awful. Well, it's not the case with the Tempest. So these, if I had to estimate how long it took me in terms of just finding the buyer and getting the invite to the party, 5 minutes. It took me 5 minutes to buy hundreds of these. And the reason is there's people, if you buy in bulk for 2C each, so 2C for 30% quantity, you can get people with 150, like 200 of these. I don't even know how they have these. But you can buy in massive amounts of bulk. And now you're thinking, okay, well, like, I mean, it's 1C if I buy it alone, 2C if I buy in bulk, so I'm actually doubling the price if I buy in bulk. But the time you save from buying for 2C, like hundreds of them, that time you save not trading, you'll find that C in the next map you do, remember? Because like the quantity will apply to that map. So definitely try out these things, and there's other things you can buy in bulk too. Another thing I was testing was twins, right? Because if your map has a red sextant available, you put a red sextant, you can get something called Nemesis Monsters drop 3 currencies, and then obviously if you have that, you definitely want to run, you want to really juice up your map, right? And a really good sextant along with that is reflect sextant, right? Like you can't take reflected damage, and the rare monsters are mirrored, which means they're doubled. Whenever there's 1 in a pack, there's now 2. Now that sextant doesn't work in conjunction with the twins. I tested it, so you don't get 4. So basically, but that sextant like is maybe a little bit more uncommon. So if you don't get that sextant, with the Nemesis roll, you're going to want to buy twins, right? Because twins is 1 alchemy, and it'll double the rare monsters in there, so double the currency. And so the twins, though, you can use this like naturally. In like a juiced up map. So let's say you're whaling your maps, you get a 140 quantity map, right? And you're like, holy shit! And then you see it's like more rare monsters in there or something. So you stack your storm, you get 30% quantity. You proc twins or something, so that like maybe like this one doesn't proc, but then the twins proc, so you get double the rare monsters. Rare monsters drop way more loot than the other monsters. It's like all these like stacking things for so little cost. Like the output that you get from using the Tempest and from using the twins and stuff and all these other prophecies vastly outweighs their cost, even if you buy it in bulk for a tiny bit more. So that's about it for the video. I just wanted to show you guys the prophecies and stuff and how easy it is to buy. And maybe tomorrow or the next day I'll actually make a full tier list of T16s of like what do I use my Elder's Orb on, and also what are the popular choices for Shaper's Orbs and things like that, and what are the pros and cons of each, and what considerations have to be made. Okay, so that was just short and sweet. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye everyone. Bye.